tone or the message that I took from it was about kind of family and how siblings, specifically siblings, are supposed to have each other's back, regardless of what's going on or what your situation is, and that's what I took from this. A majority of it, there was a specific to me that was what his father was trying to instill in them, to kind of look out for each other. You basically, once I'm gone, you two are gonna be the only people that you have to look out for each other. So your siblings are your number one priority. You always back them up. And for me, I thought that was a very strong message. At least that's what I picked up from it. And then, as you did say in the synopsis for this, there's not very much representation for autism, and I thought this was a very interesting way to do that and to bring this kind of that into light that people maybe don't know about, or there's a lot of things that I didn't know about autism, and you kind of you learn some things from this, especially coping mechanisms and things like that, and a lot of things, how not to treat people with autism, especially how the father raises his kids. Christian being the number one, the way he treats Christian in this has to be probably the worst way to treat someone with on the spectrum, in my opinion. Basically, especially the scene where he's training them how to fight in, I don't know where they're at, but they have like a sensei or something, and he's basically beating the kids up, and he's telling them, you got to peel back the layers to make them hard, to make them ready for the world, because the world isn't going to be nice to them. So you got to, basically beat that into them. And that was such a horrible way to grow up as a child. But yeah, and then just for me, I took it as especially the hand-to-hand combat stuff was very John Wick-esque. In my opinion, I think it was at that top level that John Wick is at, the choreography in the fights. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I think I don't think I got a chance to see it in theaters when it did come out, but as soon as it came out, I ended up buying it because I'm a big Ben Affleck fan, and I was very excited to see this film. I had no idea really that it had anything to do. I had no idea that his character had autism until I watched it, and I thought, this is such a cool, I would say, representation for those types of people, and kind of making other people aware of that situation. But what about you? Was this the first time you seeing this, or have you seen it before?
I'd seen it. I've seen it once before when it came out on video for the first time, and I remember being pretty blown away by it, just because of how how it doesn't throw, how do you say, the action in your face, the way that, and not to throw any shade towards John Wick, because of course we love all of those movies, but
yes,
it's the action is much more separated, and this is more story driven.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Kind of like Atomic Blonde. A lot of people didn't like Atomic Blonde because it was more giving you like this kind of complicated spy espionage stuff, but with the crazy hand-to-hand combat as well. You know what I mean?
Sprinkled throughout.
Yeah, so it's very much more in the vein of Atomic Blonde, and I really dug that because it's challenging, us as viewers to actually pay attention and dive deep into these characters,
Right. And before this, I had no idea The cover art for this gives it away a lot, but I had no idea that the puzzles, like the shapes of puzzles, was the kind of the symbol for autism.
Yeah.
I was unaware of that until this, and Alyssa was actually the one who brought it up, and now I notice it a lot when I'm driving around. I see people who have like license plates who have like around the borders of their license plates. They'll have those, and it'll have like someone's name on it, and I think that's really cool. I had no idea that was a thing. So that's another cool thing that I learned about this about that.
Have you ever seen a movie called Mercury Rising with Bruce Willis?
Yes.
That little kid, I believe, is autistic, and that's why they end up trying to, the government or whoever.
Because he can
he cracks a code.
Right. Yeah. I remember that one. Yeah, I haven't seen that in a while, but I remember watching that movie tons of times when I was younger. I just want to say I love the way that his in the beginning, I think it's the very beginning of the movie where the parents are Christian Wolf's parents are they take him to that institute or home for kids with autism or on the spectrum, and the father does a great job of explaining to the parents, and in layman's terms and stuff, basically it's he just people with autism, they just input things a different way, and they they see things and they may not know how to express things the same way that we do. They express it in a different way, or they something like that. And I thought it's a really cool, like, again, this movie's very you get a lot of information from this film as well.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get it sucks, but the scene that I really enjoyed was when the mother is kind of over it. She's, she can't take the tantrums that Christian gets and stuff like that. So she ends up leaving. I think it was around Christmas time when she does. And she waves to the younger son,
Braxton.
Braxton. And she waves to him goodbye before she gets in the taxi after she has a big argument with their dad in the front yard. And he just flips her off. And then she just gets into the taxi and leaves. And I thought that was hilarious. I'm like, man. And he is the more there's a specific scene where his father, Christian, and Braxton are both in the car, and I believe they're in France at the time.
Yeah. Or
Paris or something like that. And they since he's in the military, they move around a lot. And he was dealing with some bullies in school. And he wanted Christian to face those bullies, and there's about 4 or 5 of them. And he tells them, are you either going to be the one who gets bullied, or you're going to stand up for yourself? And he basically tells Christian to decide, and Christian goes out and starts fighting. And to me, when you see Braxton kind of looking and watching the fight, it reminded me of like a dog being not to sound horrible, but he reminded me of like a dog being let off a leash that couldn't wait to go to, like, because he's sitting there, and then he looks at his dad in the rearview mirror and he says, "Go." And so he opens the door and beelines it straight to his brother, and he basically chases down one of the other kids who starts running off. But I thought that was just a really cool scene. That you like the downness that he has for his brother. Like, he has his back, like, always. And I thought that, like, to me, that's a big message that I took from this.
Yeah,
the love for a sibling.
Yeah,
and, like, the willingness to do whatever to protect them.
Yeah, the family unit.
Yes. But
even though that's a big scene, that kind of solidifies what you were saying earlier, that the way that the dad is pretty extreme and probably not great.
No, I mean, that's even for kids who don't have who are on the spectrum, that's not a great way to grow up. But then adding that into the equation makes it way worse. Like he says, I understand what he was trying to do, you know, to prepare him for the world and to stand up for himself. But that was it's pretty harsh, a harsh childhood for them, to say the least. But then I know we're kind of skipping a little bit over stuff, but Christian is we find out that he is hired to comb through basically the accounting part of Blackburn, who is played by he's the guy who runs the robotics, or not the robotics, but the amputee.
John Lithgow.
Yes. He hires Christian to go through the accounting and stuff, because they think that, or some numbers aren't adding up, so they have them go through that. And then just to see his mind work, and he's going through all this information and all these numbers. Just watching that, I was already overwhelmed when they bring in all the the boxes of information. I was like, oh yeah, you give me one of those boxes and I would call it quits as soon as I got one of those boxes. He consumes that information like it's nothing, and he's writing all over the glass, and it was a cool thing to see. And you can see him in his element. He feels so comfortable and in doing that stuff. Like he's even like dancing while he's you see him like kind of move his hips and stuff while he's going over numbers. And I thought that was a really cool thing. Just that's something that he gets, like numbers and things like that, and to complete projects, like the doctor says in the beginning, that's something that he has to do. When something isn't complete, it doesn't it'll bug him until it is complete.
Yeah, he has to finish everything that he starts, or else it just throws off his whole like equilibrium, it seems.
Yeah, and we get to see that later on when he starts to pick up on some. He finds the missing money and kind of has some more questions about it, and he's not done yet. But then he kind of gets abruptly stopped, and they tell him, you know, thank you, here's your paycheck. We don't need your help anymore. Thanks for this, blah, blah, blah. And he says, like, well, I'm not done yet. I have to finish it. And he's like, no, you know, you've done enough. Thank you. And he's like, no, I have to finish. It's not done. And then you see him go through his I believe it's his nightly ritual where he turns on like the heavy metal and the strobe lights, because those are, I'm assuming that a lot of people with autism or on the spectrum, they have trouble with loud noises and lights and stuff like that, correct?
Yeah.
And so that's his kind of coping mechanism, or his way to kind of, I believe that's probably how his father had him kind of get used to things, was kind of just throw him into the fire. And you see him kind of, earlier he does the same ritual at night, and he usually is done by a specific time on the clock. And this time he goes over that time, and he can't get into he can't complete the ritual basically. And he starts beating himself with the stick, which sounded horrible.
Well, I don't know if you said it already or not, but what's part of his ritual is he takes like this piece of round, like a cylinder-shaped piece of wood, smooth, varnished, you know, and it looks like he's like deadening the nerves in his legs the way that kickboxers do or Muay Thai fighters do. So that, going back to that scene that you're saying, because he's not able to finish that big assignment with the robotics team, when he goes home, he can't even park his truck. You know, like nothing is going his way, and he can't finish his ritual, and he starts kind of self-harm, or his version of self-harm, you know. And it gets pretty intense.
Yeah. And then we get introduced to, we're not, some spoiler alert for those who haven't seen this. Pause this and go in and watch the rest of the movie. But we get introduced to a grown-up Braxton, who at the time we don't know that it's Braxton. We just know that it's just some guy who's kind of like a hitman for hire, or something like that in that sense. And he basically He makes one of the guys who works for Blackburn kill him.